My name is Alan Chief Strongblood Palmer, St. Vincent and the Grenadines' favorite and most hated son, the Diaspora Machismo, asking you to share this video and leave a comment. Let me know what are your thoughts on this matter. Before we get into the meat of the issue today, I would like to say thank you to the following person for following St. Vincent we come from: God is Love Lois, Ezekiel Simmons, Vinci Chassis, Cindy Bino, Ava Grant, LaFleur Williams, Tang Johnson, Otis Andrews, Mr. Dario Cope, Jane Farrell, Capias John, and Alana Carindon. On Sunday, April 10th, 2022, I listened to an interview that was done by the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Ralph Gonsalves. It was an interview that was done to commemorate the first anniversary of the 2021 volcanic eruption in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. In this interview, Ralph Gonsalves was boasting about the preparedness for an explosive volcanic eruption. He spoke about the shelters were prepared, but were they prepared?
I'm the Prime Minister, I'm the Minister responsible for disaster preparedness, disaster management. Richie Robertson had said to me that sometime within the next 24 hours that the sulfur is going to erupt. And of course the eruption took place the morning of the 9th, Friday the 9th of April 2021. But we were pretty well organized. Transportation systems, shelters.
When we consider that the buildings that are normally used for emergency shelters are schools and other non-emergency government buildings like community centers, etc., there was no preparation done to accommodate those people who were to be evacuated from a volcanic eruption, even though we had 6 months where preparation could have been done to facilitate the proper housing of these people. Take a look at this video that was done by one Dennis Osmond, a Vincentian who resides in Canada, who returned home during the time of the volcanic eruption and was forced to reside in an evacuating center.
So at the shelter, I'm heading into the bathroom. This is the bathroom facility where we're being housed. I don't even know how, I don't think there's lights. I don't know how to turn on the lights. This is the condition. This is where they expect us to take a shower with no running water. We have to try to fill up buckets. This is a bucket that we got. We found this bucket because there's no bucket.
Look at the condition of this place. Unfortunately, this was not a one-off situation. This was the condition of the schools and the other government buildings that were used as evacuation center across the board. This is what the citizens of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, who had to contend with a volcanic eruption and had to leave their homes, had to live in. These are the facilities they had to use during the period of time while they were displaced. But even worse, these are the facilities our children are forced to use every day when they go to the school system to be educated. This is a total embarrassment when you consider the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines had about 6 months to prepare for an explosive volcanic eruption, and even though they would not have an explosive volcanic eruption, the enhancement that would have done to these buildings would have benefited our children today. But today our children are still back in the same dilapidated, disgusting environment. If this is Ralph Gonsalves and Ralph Gonsalves government's idea of being prepared, is there any wonder our economy has been dwindling and is now in a mess? In an effort to pat himself on the back, Ralph Gonsalves compared his government's response to the volcanic eruption, which they had 6 months to prepare for, to that of the 1902 eruption.
Not one person got injured. Not one person died. Compared to what happened in 1902, 2,000 persons died. In fact, people were in the fields, both on the windward and the leeward side, on the plantations when Soufriere blew. There was not advance notice other than what people saw with their own eyes.
He claimed that in 1902 they lost 2,000 lives, which is true. But we must consider in 1902 they didn't have any motorized vehicles for the transportation of people. In 1902 there was no communication system, there was no phone system, there was no telegraph system in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. In 1902 the popular means of transport for the plantation owners was horseback and carriage and donkeys. And the popular means of transportation for the indentured servants and the African who lived on the island was on foot. There were no scientists monitoring the volcano. There were no warning system put in place. When the 1902 eruption took place, the white plantation owners took their white families and their white staff, pack up their carriages, leave the danger area, and they left their workers behind. That is why there was so much deaths. When you consider the primitivity that the people in 2002 lived in comparison to time in this earth's history, where in St. Vincent and the Grenadines there are thousands of vehicles, there are trucks, buses, vans, cars, motorcycles, bicycles. There are telephone, cell phone, social media, WhatsApp, Viber, all manner of communication means. What kind of fool will really compare what happened in 1902 and the life that were lost when it compared to 2021? It's foolish to make such a comparison. In order to pat himself on the back, to say that he did such a wonderful job, Ralph Gonsalves also compared the 2021 eruption in St. Vincent and the Grenadines to the 2021 eruption in the city of Goma in the Congos. He spoke about the people in the Congos experiencing death and could not be evacuated.
Around the same time as Soufriere blew, in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, a volcano on the outskirts of a town called Goma. Very populous town. People were dying, getting injured and evacuated before the authorities say that there was a volcanic eruption.
Tens of thousands of people are leaving the city of Goma in the Democratic Republic of Congo as authorities warn that a nearby volcano could erupt again at any time. An eruption last weekend saw lava flow to within a few hundred meters of Goma's outskirts. Authorities fear a second eruption could be much more serious. So why is everybody so much more concerned now about this potential eruption than they were about the one that happened on Saturday night?
The one that happened on a Saturday night was a surprise eruption. The one that happened on a Saturday night was a surprise eruption. The one that happened on a Saturday night was a surprise eruption.
When you consider what happened in the city of Goma, the volcanic eruption was a sudden eruption that started erupting in the night at 7 p.m. Where you have in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the government had at least 6 months notice. They had people monitoring the volcano that would have given them an idea of when the volcano was going to be erupted. So here we see, in the city of Goma, it had a sudden eruption where the volcano decided to erupt one time in the night, and it caused 20 deaths. The population in the city of Goma is 2 million people. The population of the villages around the volcano is 600,000 people. The Soufriere volcano, when it erupted explosively, send up ash columns, and there was some chiropractic flow. The volcano in Goma, when it erupted, sent walls of lava running down an 11,000 feet mountain, completely destroying villages. Yet only 20 people died. All of the dynamic in this comparison is totally different. But what Gonsalves failed to do, he failed to compare his response, 2021 volcanic eruption in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, to the response of Milton Cato in 1979, where in 1979 there was no warning that there was a volcanic eruption. The La Soufrière just erupted like that. Yet everyone was evacuated without any deaths.
And one of the first things really that impressed me about him was his ability to make decisions quickly. Very often you find a number of persons who can't make decisions, and some who can make decisions who take such a long time to make those decisions that by the time they're made, it's useless. We should never forget that when St. Vincent became independent, the Soufrière had erupted on the 13th of March in the same year. And when we became independent, there were still Vincentians. Of the 20,000 who were evacuated without a single death during the actual eruption,
Prime Minister Milton Cato and his government had to act on the go. They had to be planning and implementing their plans as things were happening. Yet in 2021, Gonsalves and his government had 6 months to make arrangements for the transportation of the people in the red and orange zone to the safe zones. They had 6 months to prepare the schools, the evacuation center. They had 6 months to get enough cots, beds, mattresses, whatever one needed for the proper housing of these people. They had 6 months to prepare the toilet system and the bathroom system to ensure that clean running water were available. They had 6 months to prepare for the feeding of the people who would be evacuated. In 1979, Milton Cato and his government did not have the privilege of a warning. They had to plan and implement their plans on the go. So when Ralph Gonsalves is trying to pat himself on the back and is using uncomparable comparison to make himself feel good, we know that Ralph Gonsalves and his government, even though they had time to plan, time to do assimilations, they failed in living up to what was required in a disaster where there were forewarnings.
Bear this in mind, Teresa. We evacuated 1/5 of the population, 20,000, in all those shelters and private homes and guest houses and hotels and the like. Not one person got injured. Not one person died.
That when St. Vincent became independent, the Soufrière had erupted on the 13th of March in the same year. And when we became independent, there were still Vincentians. Of the 20,000 who were evacuated without a single death during the actual eruption.
My name is Alan Chief Strongblood Palmer, St. Vincent and the Grenadines' favorite and most hated son, the diaspora machismo, asking you to share this video and leave a comment. Let me know what are your thoughts on this matter.